Welcome to another episode of the Nagafen Chronicles. Today I have with me Kyle Kander Vallee of the EverQuest 2 developers. So today we're going to talk about the time-locked expansion servers. And Kander here has very graciously given his time to answer some questions I have. First up, I was wondering, we're going to ask some flavor questions. What's your favorite expansion to create
Okay.
so far?
My favorite expansion was probably the Shadow Odyssey. That was the one I did a lot of dungeons for. I really enjoy making dungeons. I'm back to making dungeons, which is totally awesome. That was probably at the funnest that being on this team ever was. I mean, it's actually, believe it or not, coming full circle to that now. We have, a bunch of dedicated, passionate designers, and it's fun working on the game again. So, and we're having fun doing it. But yeah,
I can definitely see that because on at least on our end we don't get to see what goes on beyond the scenes much, but Holly seems to be doing an amazing job. She's very energetic and outgoing. She doesn't give too much, but she gives just enough to make you want more.
yeah, and Holly's executive producer of 2 games now instead of one. So she's doing EQ and EQ2. Yeah, she has twice as much work, and she's still managing to keep that enthusiasm.
And I think PvP in general is going to take an upswing with the TLE servers.
Right, that's what we're hoping. We're hoping to give the PvP people the exact server that they want. So,
Oh man, it sounds like it from what I was reading from the on and off features that are going to be there. Sounds like it's going to be utterly perfect.
well, I don't know about perfect, but we're we're trying hard. We're trying hard to give them exactly what they want. So,
That's
we'll
definitely
see what
obvious.
happens.
It's obvious that you're definitely listening to the players with what was on and off on that feature list on the forums.
Yeah, we feel like there's been a lot of changes in the past that we made as a team, and we didn't take into consideration how it would affect PvP. And honestly, it's a shame. But we're looking back now, and we're talking to our players, and we're hopefully going to build them a server that'll be fun, and bring a lot of people back to PvP who are really upset about the way things went. So,
I know. One I've had two guilds in the past that I really just the other players in it have stuck with me and we've become friends. More so, almost real life friends to this point. And
uh-huh.
one of those groups was on a PvP server. And I was talking to one of them on the phone the other day and talking about it, and her voice, you could just tell she was just so utterly excited.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's great to see.
It's something that we've been wanting to do for quite a while. I've been wanting to do for quite a while. There's people on this team that played on Nagafen at the peak of Nagafen, and they have a lot of really awesome memories. And so it's not something we just decided on a whim. We've been talking about it for a long time, and it's been really hard to not say anything to the the very few PvPers who are left that are still, you know,
Holding on.
diehard diehard EQ2 PvPers, and I feel like that we let those people down, and so this is an opportunity, I hope, for us to make it up to them.
I definitely see it like it is. It's exciting because I think to me the peak was TSO. It was my favorite PvE expansion and PvP expansion, and there was just so much to it that made it to where it was a good PvP one because you had to pop into so many different zones in order to get to the dungeons, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes it sound like it's so spread out, but really everybody would gather at the hubs of those zone entries and PvP there too. Especially
Mm-hmm.
the Lava Storm update during TSO, it was a crazy house on the Lava Storm box. You would zone into Lava
Yeah,
Storm and just get slaughtered, and it was fun getting slaughtered.
yeah, I remember that.
So, which one was your favorite expansion to play yourself?
My expansion to play was probably favorite was probably Echoes of Fedor. I was in a top rating guild at the time, and I actually played in top rate guilds all through EQ2 up until as late as Sky Shrine. So, and but I think my fondest memories were probably Echoes of Fedor.
You just listed your two favorites, so those are my two top favorites also. TSO and EOF were my favorites.
There you go.
Can't you can't argue with with what I feel was perfection.
Yeah, they were close. I think I mean it depends on what kind of style player you are too. Also, because for many people, Kunark was the peak of the awesomeness because they were solo players, and well, I hear a lot of people say Sentinel's Fate was their favorite rating expansion, or TSO was their favorite rating expansion, and I've actually had a lot of people say that that this year the Altar of Malice is their favorite rating expansion. So you know, it's like what they say about opinions. Everyone's got one, but you know, those are my favorites.
All right, so let's dig into the meat of this. Once the beta TLE servers launch in early July, what data specifically are you looking to collect from the beta testers?
Well, um, we want to get it up and get as many people on them as possible so we can find as many problems early on and get them fixed before we launch them. We're really trying to get these up quickly, but the idea is we're testing our capabilities as far as a team, how we can get them up and get them in a playable state, and then we're hoping, we have other plans like maybe we'll do a seasonal TLE server where the expansions unlock on at a certain date every 30 days, and then it has leaderboards and stuff like that. So we're exploring a bunch of different ideas for that. We're all right now we're really looking at also server population and stuff like that. The current the current player base thinks that we're ignoring it, and we're really not. It's just we're trying to plan it in a way that we can do the most important stuff first, and not make it an unpleasant experience. So there's a lot of stuff that's code wise that had to do with database changes and stuff like that. That's going to make it easier for us to do some server consolidation. So, but as far as getting them up and getting people on them and trying to find the major issues right away, because there's so much. EQ2 is so deep, and the depth is just even all of us that have been involved with it since the beginning. We can't think of everything. Every day we're going, oh, what about this or what about that, and that's part of why we got the threads up on the forums so soon too, is to get people posting and talking and hopefully remind us of some stuff we're missing. But we're really trying to make it a fun experience. It's been so long in EverQuest 2 since there's a brand new server, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everything you do matters. Everything you craft matters because people want it, and discoveries matter, and doing things and exploring and finding new items matters, and you have this opportunity to build a new economy and build new friends. And so we're looking at all the stuff like what do we need to make sure is there to make it a good experience, and what do we need to make sure that isn't there, to keep the community together and keep people talking to each other and keep people grouping and playing and giving them that experience of a brand new server.
I definitely agree with you on that. Like I was saying, I was on the phone with my friend, and we were just so excited. It sounds so ridiculous sometimes to say this, but we were like spitting off features. Or like, there's not going to be any flying mounts. That's awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, we're gonna have to harvest. There's not going to be any ponies or guild harvesters.
Right.
And we were excited about that kind of thing. And thinking about it, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna have double harvest still, or is it gonna be like crazy like the old way was? Or are they going to revert it so far that when you harvest, you only get one item? Or are they going to have the multiple items like they have now?
Well, so that's a really good example of stuff that I think that there's certain things that we have done that are better, just better and less frustrating.
Hmm.
And I don't think that we're shooting to put up a server that has everything that was ultra frustrating. So we're really going down the list. We're going, you know, and it's like I say, I post this a lot, and I tell our players this a lot. There's a lot of things that really aren't as cool as you remember them.
Yeah,
you know,
th-
um,
that's true.
and when it goes, if it were to go back into the game, it would probably end up frustrating you. Although you seem to have, good memories about it. I mean, I have good memories about when forges and crafting killed you. You know what I mean? I always thought that was great because I mean, yeah, you're on this forge and fire's billowing and you're bending metal and then all of a sudden it explodes. Well, of course, you'd be,
And you just see
you
this
know,
little tiny gnome fall over
yeah,
to the ground.
yeah, blown to smithereens, and it's like, and those were good memories, I guess, as far as that's interesting and cool, but it frustrated way more people than people who have awesome nostalgic, ideas. We're going down a massive list. I mean, an absolutely massive list, and saying, okay, when did we do this? Why did we do this? Was it better? Should we revert it? That kind of stuff. But the problem is also a lot of that stuff just isn't even there. So there's going to be some stuff that we can't rework, and we just don't have the time to rework stuff. So we're trying to put as much cool stuff in there, and hopefully, I mean, if you talk to 1,000 players, you might have 500 that say, "Well, I don't want the original pre-GU13 game because I didn't like it,"
Hmm.
and they have valid reasons why they didn't like it, So, and there's been so much stuff that we've done that's better since then.
I
So I'm hoping we hit the sweet spot. I'm hoping we hit the spot where, you know, it's not ultra frustrating, but there isn't flying and there isn't battlegrounds and there isn't guild halls and there isn't, stuff that we feel took away from the community, even though they were awesome features.
hmm
I think there's a lot of features in the history of EQ2 that we didn't think about hard enough. And guild halls is one of them.
I think
I know people love them, but in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's not the team's opinion. In my opinion, guild halls were one of the worst things we ever did. Even though they were done well and they were an awesome feature and fun and cool, they took people out of the cities, they took people out of the overlands, they took people, you know, out of the world, it and they contribute to the world feeling less populated, and I just don't think that's a good thing.
I feel like if it would have been done just slightly differently,
Mm-hmm.
two things were like your prestige. See, a guild to me would have been great if their prestige, the higher their level was, the more prestige they earned with the city. So you could, knock your fist against the castle door and get inside and use their reforger and use
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. And it would be an open instance of the inside of Antonia Bale's castle, and you
Mm-hmm.
could see everybody else who had a prestigious enough guild to come inside because they had earned it through their status, through their valor and their might to be able to
Mm-hmm.
come and see everybody else, who had reached that point. I mean, of course, there'd be a couple people who had alts. You'd see this little noob in 10 armor, but that doesn't take away from the feel that his guild built up that prestige to get inside there. And then instead, having the guild halls basically be half of what they already are. Half of the epicness of a guild hall is just that you can do so much decorating with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if that approach would have been used instead, it would have been differently. It wouldn't have been such a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, we love our decorators, and we're always trying to put out, new places for people to decorate. And I think that a lot of the aspects of the guild hall were cool. Like I said, I feel like they were really well implemented.
Hmm.
But like your idea of the idea of I have a guild, and the higher level of my guild, I have more prestige and I can do more cool stuff out in the open world is actually a really cool idea. And if I remember correctly, it was probably some of the ideas that were thrown around at the time. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it got to where we were trying to, give people, amenities and trying to make, the guild hall this big community function within a community function. But the problem is it ended up that so many players hung out in their guild halls, and then you started to see Kinos and Freeport, abandoned. And
Right.
that's not a good feeling, right? Like when you log in and you go to the broker and there's no one in the city, you're like, oh my God, this game is completely dead.
Yeah, it
And
does take away from that.
if every single person that was online, right, every day was in the cities, it would be a totally different environment because you would see other players all the time. But instead, they kind of hang out in their guild halls. So this is going to be kind of a cool experiment, even for the PVE server, with guild halls being linked, most likely to Kunark, if we even do them again. We're talking about putting that in the poll. Voting. Do you even want guild halls in the future on this server? So
I'm
we'll see
hope
what happens.
I'm hoping that the PvP community votes no.
I'm pretty sure the PvP community does not want guild halls. Yeah, they've been pretty clear about what they want, and they don't want mercs, they don't want guild halls, they don't want battlegrounds, they don't want. There's a huge list of stuff. So we're not. That's one of the things we're doing, that we're changing, and we're going to do with this is there's not going to be PvP stats or PvP armor anymore. We're taking all that stuff out. There's no more tokens. Um, and the time locked expansion PvP server will not have any access to battlegrounds. Um,
Will it go along? Will the PvP one and the PvE one go along the same path? I saw the path you put was basically every 30 days that it would be up to a vote,
yeah,
and
we're
what
we're
is
talking about different ways to do that. One of the things we're talking about for the PvP server is saying, okay, the vote comes up every 30 days, and if for 3 months straight the community says we don't want to advance the expansion, then not having a vote for 6 months after that again, like stuff like that. So we're still kind of trying to decide how we're going to do that, but we definitely want the inhabitants of those servers to shape their future, right? Like where their server's going. If everyone in PvP comes back to that server and it's well populated and everyone decides I want to stay locked in Kingdom of Sky because this is the heyday of PvP, then that's going to be their choice, right? So, and we're embracing that. If that's where it gets and the majority of that server wants to stay there, then that's what's going to happen. So,
then I'm just gonna have to beg and buy votes that when we get to TSO, nobody unlocks any further because that's that's the pinnacle I felt like PvP was at. It was perfect for TSO, and if I can beg and buy a vote, I will.
yeah. So, I mean, and also a lot of people love TSO for the heroic and the raid content. So,
Oh yeah, I do too.
but
It's my
you
favorite.
never know what's going to happen.
True.
I mean, and then the other thing is we've discussed, if certain servers decide they like where they are, then there's a possibility we'll open another server too. So we're not against opening additional servers besides these. So, but like Holly had posted, we do need to figure out what to do with some of the less populated servers, and hopefully bring some of those people together. So
Do
it's
you?
all on our mind.
Is it a lot easier to create a new server now with this new technology behind the scenes?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lot easier for us to bring up a server, a brand new server, than to merge servers. Merging servers is a very complicated and unelegant and messy thing, and it can make a lot of people sad. So I know people have been begging for server merges, especially on some of the lower pop servers like Unrest and Oasis. But there's also a good amount of people on those servers who might not want a server consolidation. So, but I think we're finally to the point where we're going to have to force it. But we want to do it in a way that we're not making those people sad. So
It's totally understandable. Seems like y'all put a lot of thought into it.
yeah, we've been thinking about it for about a year now, nonstop. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to not, ruin people's days? So, fortunately, like I said, EQ2 has got a lot of passionate, devoted people left on it, and we're nowhere near done. We're not sunsetting the game. People have this weird notion that this is even in our future. It's not. Smed has even posted that, publicly in his addresses that we don't have any plans on closing EQ or EQ2, and that we're going to keep, trying hard as we can to provide content. So, yeah, that's another thing that I keep seeing a lot of people saying is, oh, well, this time-locked expansion server thing is a ploy to keep us all busy until they can figure out how they're going to close the game and not give us any more 100 content, and which is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. We're in full swing for the Campansion this year. We've already got quite a few dungeons in the can. Our overland is up, and we're starting to plan all that. We don't want to communicate with our player base, but because we're being really cautious to not promise something that we can't deliver. People see it from one edge. There's a lot of the pessimistic EQ2 players who think that our goal is to keep everything secret. It's really not. We would love to tell you everything, but we also have to be cautious because we're at a point where we don't want to promise something and then not deliver it. So, which has happened in the past, and we obviously always have to keep the business and the that thing in the first place mind, but the second place mind is always what can we do for our players that love the game to keep giving them content and make them excited about it. So and we're really excited about the expansion 12. There's no ploy, there's no hey, look over here while we do something subversive. That's not what we're doing. And the only reason we're even being tight-lipped with information is because we don't want to promise something that we can't deliver. But this team manages to, always deliver some pretty cool stuff. And like I said, we're excited about, what's coming in fall. So,
to my knowledge, all the PvP gear is in the Battlegrounds hub zone. Will
mm-hmm.
there be PvP gear that'll be specific for PvP, or will we all be duking it out and scavenging over the PvE content in order to get gear?
Yeah, our goal is to take PvP back to the heyday. So we don't have any plans on making new PvP gear ever again. In fact, our plan is for the time lock servers is we're gonna make some adjustments, for hit points and damage, but we're gonna let you use the gear that's currently there. We're not gonna do any more lethality or toughness. That's a battleground stat. And then the idea is to turn procs back on because we feel that procs are part of our game and they're fun. But at the same time, we're going to try to balance and fix PvP damage so that, things are cool and fun and everyone isn't being one shot by rangers and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we absolutely are thinking about this stuff. Keith, Robert Fouts, has been a devoted PvP player and played PvP on Nagafen for a while, and he's got, his ear to the ground, same as the rest of us. So we're working on, some solutions to try to get things back where players want them to be. I know everyone has their opinion and when things were the greatest or the most awesome, but we're just gonna shoot for the best spot we can.
Mu this is a statement and a question. Much of
Mm-hmm.
PvP EQ2 can look back at a time and mechanics wise, travel wise for PvP, and see that things went exceptionally well. If that point is reached in on the server, are things likely to be ported over to Nagafen, or is it likely to stay the same, or with future updates maybe change and revert back a few things?
So that's a really good question. There's going to be some things that we change for the PvP server, for the time locked expansion PvP server, that will absolutely affect Nagafen, um, because that's just the way the system works. As far as what are we going to do with Nagafen, um, we do not have any plans to close Nagafen or merge Nagafen. We're hoping that eventually we'll figure out what people want for sure with the TLE server, and a lot of that stuff will get ported over to Nagafen. And we're also going to turn off the battlegrounds for Nagafen with the campansion this year.
Oh, is that something you want me to cut out?
No, you can tell people.
Okay.
There's not a large amount of people playing on Nagafen right now,
Hmm.
and I feel, and from talking to many PvPers, that battlegrounds was really kind of a thing that we did that should have been kept to Blue Bee servers. It was more a feature for those people to fight each other and do that kind of stuff. And I think that battlegrounds kind of um, was not good for Nagafen as a server. I think Nagafen players in the majority want open PvP. I think they want to go
Oh,
out
definitely.
and have massive battles and talk about, oh man, remember that time there was 50 of us in Fearot and holy cow, that kind of stuff. Um, and so, as I said, I think that eventually you'll see a lot of these changes, if not all of them, go to Nagafen if they're popular. So it's really an opportunity for us to learn a lot about what our PvP or players want too. I know there's a lot of people that left Nagafen and went to Antonia Bale and Freeport, and and I'm sure they had their they all have their different reasons. So if we can create a PvP environment that's happy and fun, then I'm sure you'll see those changes go over to Nagafen, and then hopefully we can even have two happy, fun PvP servers. um,
Would it ever be a possibility to make it free to transfer back to Nagafen if you had been a previous resident, or is it always just going to stay a paid feature?
we have talked countless times about this, and one of the options on the table is to let people, move to Nagafen for free. So yeah. Um, we also, we did a poll and we talked about letting people move off the more populated servers to the less populated servers for free. Um, we're gonna try to make the move that's best and happiest for everyone. So, but yeah, I would love, what I would actually love, and this is, you can leave this on the record, is I would love to let people copy to Nagafen. So,
Oh, I would
where
love that too.
where you play on your PVE server and you get your gear and stuff, and then once a month you can copy over to Nagafen and go PvP there with what you have, and but there's a lot of technicalities with that would have to be conquered, and a lot of what ifs. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of players that loved PvP in the heyday, and Nagafen used to be the highest populated server at one time. So, I mean, it was much higher populated than Antonia Bale. So that was a long time ago. But so if we can create that environment and make it fun and awesome again, then that's what we're definitely trying to do.
Sounds like a great goal. It sounds like you are starting to have the tools you need to do that.
Well, the database stuff that we've been working really hard on is helping. So I know there's been a lot of optimization and stuff, and now we're making some major changes to how our clusters work for servers. We're doing mega clusters to try to build a better system. So when you go into an instance, it's not on another cluster with 5 other instances and stuff like that. This is all stuff we're trying to do to help, performance and frame rate and all that stuff. So one of our, actually, I can't say one, all of our coders have that in mind, and they're making tweaks and adjustments when they can, and trying to find problems and nip them in the bud as soon as they can. So we're a very hardworking team. We're never idle. So we haven't been idle for a very long time. So
will beta for the TLE servers be member only?
So here's the deal. These servers will definitely be member only, so we're discussing making the betas also all access only because A, we want to set the expectation for that right away. Mm-hmm. B, it's one more thing that we're hoping that kind of feels velvet rope for our players who do pay their all access. We're always looking for stuff to give our all access players the velvet rope, make them feel special because they are paying to play the game. We're always thinking about that. So I'm thinking it's a pretty high probability that the beta will also only be for all access players.
Will there be a beta testing reward that you can either claim on the TLE server or on live servers only?
There will be a reward. We're not sure what it is yet, and it'll probably be something that you can just get in the station store for 0 SC. We're still working out the particulars for that, but yes, there will be a beta reward.
Will beta run through all of the locked thresholds, or just test 1 or 2 to get a feel for it?
Chances are the way the system works is everything is set up identically. So it depends on what we have time for. The bottom line is, what do we have time for? If we have time to go through all the thresholds, then that's the plan. Yeah, it just comes down to what we have time for.
Will the Wizard Spires not be active until KOS, and will the Druid Rings not be active until EOF?
That's a good question, and you can have that on the record. We're actually talking about really limiting what's available for you on the bells and the maps. So I think that, though, in the state of our current game, fast travel is awesome, and it makes it a little less frustrating for the nostalgia point of the game, and also making the world feel as big as it was and as vast as it was. And I think you're going to really see us limiting the amount of travel you can do quickly. So I'm pretty sure when these servers launch, you're only going to see stuff that was available at that time. So bells, the Kinos bell is only going to go to places around Kinos and Antonica, and you're going to have to go to Thundering Steps to get to Zek and Firot. And yeah, I mean, Our plan is to limit a lot of the fast travel and a lot of the ways that and especially for PvP, a lot of the ways that you can get away fast. So we're going to be disabling the prestige house window, that people can use out in the open world. We'll probably still let you have prestige houses, but you're not going to be able to get to them quickly.
Are you going to lock content like Zek until the boat quest is done, or will everything in the original Shattered Lands be open?
Our current plan is to let everything in the current Shattered Lands be open. Um, I don't think that we'll limit that content. You'll still be able to do it if you want to do it, but I don't. As far as for the original game, I don't see a major benefit in keeping people out of Zek. I mean, Zek is one of those zones that has some pretty major, awesome PvP memories for people too. So I think that'll be really cool on the PvP server. And I know that I personally enjoyed Zek once it was set up with a good solo quest line,
Mm-hmm.
which I did. So,
And I very much enjoyed. So sounds like you're responsible for a lot of stuff I enjoy.
yeah. So, yes, that was kind of a biased answer, uh, but yeah, that's actually some of my fondest memories is when we started implementing solo content, content specific for solo people. And I did a bunch of stuff in Antonica with Matsy Rolling Pin, and I did all the Zek stuff. Actually, me and Valen, we
Hmm.
did we did all of that stuff for Zek together. It was a
Oh
very
man,
it was a
Valen.
very yeah, it was a very, very fond memory for me and a huge part of my career doing that stuff with Tony. Um, so we had a lot of fun.
I miss Tony's awkward, cryptic poems that he would post about lore. That was some of the most fun being on the forums.
Yeah, well, we should start doing some of that stuff again. Yeah,
The best
yeah.
one that y'all did was you handed out pieces of that erudite story or note
Oh
to all
yeah.
the different fan sites before Sentinel's
Uh-huh.
Fate. That was
Yeah.
so cool. I
Yeah,
was I
that
was
was
sit, I was sitting there
that
in Photoshop trying to piece it together.
that was Paul Molina, yeah, that did that. Yeah, I remember that. That was really cool. Yeah. So, yeah, Paul is on EQ next now, so he's not still here working for the betterment of Norath kind. But yeah, um, yeah. So I don't think there'll be anything as far as from the Shattered Lands. You won't be able to go in. You obviously won't be able to go into like Runny Eye Advanced, Runny Eye the Gathering, because that was something we released after Kunark and it was level 70 or whatever. So that will probably be hooked to Kunark, right?
Hmm.
If you look at stuff and you remember stuff that you could do, chances are it'll be linked to the closest expansion for obvious reasons, right? Like we're not gonna have a level 70 zone in a level 50 world, so
Right.
when you can't go past level 50, you're not going to really have a lot of fun in a zone full of red stuff that'll kill you instantly. So yeah, there'll be, obviously some
Becoming white.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's another,
do
you
you
know,
do you see the scaling content from TSO being unlocked, like Deep Forge?
so that stuff had a lot of problems scaling, and some of that stuff was actually harder in the lower levels than it was in the higher levels. I think we've fixed that now, but I think we're going to probably adhere to the expansion flags. So that stuff obviously won't be unlocked until expansion 5 or 6, whichever one that was.
This is definitely understandable and is exactly what I personally wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything that you possibly want to share that hasn't been posted yet that you wanted to that you're allowed to divulge today?
Oh man, there's so
Any
much.
any subject. It doesn't have to be just TLE.
um, let me think about that one. There's so much. We're working on so much stuff. Um, it's kind of crazy. Um, you can you can expect to see illithids again. The guys that were in uh,
Siren's Grotto,
Siren's Grotto.
like the one that I got from Fanfare. I love that dude.
Yeah, you
He's
can you can
he's the
expect to
most
see those
OP mark.
guys. Is he? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so you can expect to see those guys again. Um, we're not going to say where we're going. That's going to be another big speculation as far as where we're going for the campantion.
Oh my God!
Um,
Don't tell me we're
there's
going to Prex's Hold.
there's a lot of speculation, and like people are like, we're going to Luckland, we're going to here, we're going to there, and
See,
and
my big guess has been the Serpent Spine Mountains because of the Erican lore saying that they're looking for their homeland in our reality.
wow, that's a that's a really good insight. Yeah, nope.
Oh, dreams crushed.
I think I think people will be pleasantly surprised. It's almost something that's just not on anyone's radar, and that's really what we wanted to do.
That's
Um,
awesome.
we set up AOM Altar of Malice at the end to have a lot of expectations, like and it did work. Like there's a lot of speculation, and that was very much worked by design and the way our evil plot worked. So can't say where we're going because Hollywood kill me, but I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be.
Wait, so she's not the one that's keeping the food from you? Because
um,
that skeleton, it's working for you.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, Holly is really good at keeping us tempered, right? Because there's so much stuff that we're excited about and that we want to tell people, but she doesn't. She's not a dictator. She just doesn't come in and say you can't say anything. She's like, well, you don't want to say anything about that because of this and this, and just think about how awesome it's going to be when people find out X or Y. And so she does a good job keeping us,
See,
restrained.
and that's a good thing for the community. It keeps the hype all the way up until beta,
Hmm.
and then the hype all comes out at once.
Hmm. Holly calls it Cander's candor. I try to be as straightforward about stuff as possible, um, and as honest about stuff as possible as I can be. We're really not about keeping stuff and being dishonest with our players. Like I said, we're just trying to temper our enthusiasm. that's
Yes.
that's probably the best way to put it. We're trying to temper our enthusiasm. I'll tell you that where we are going is a massive passion project for me and Nathan Cathiel.
Hmm.
We've been wanting to do this for years, so um, you can expect. I I think that like over the past. So Nathan and I have been together for a very long time as designers. We were both apprentices for a very long time.
I just
We
saw a random picture online of the two of you, and you both look like
mm,
you were. It was like at least 5, 6 years ago
it was
because you both.
probably more than that. Yeah, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. Um, we had the same office for a long time, and we did Jarsath Wastes together, um, in Kunark. Uh, we've done a lot of content together. Um, and he's absolutely one of my favorite people to work with. And this expansion coming up this year is a huge passion project for him and I. So, um,
You're definitely hyping me up.
and not giving the full story to the solo players, and that's always been a pet peeve of him and of his and mine, that we want everyone, no matter what play style you have, to have access to the full storyline. um,
Well, it seems like you guys went about 90% of the way with the story for soloers on AOM, but
yeah.
I have no idea what happened with Serena in Altar of Malice in the Ossuary
Mhm.
because I
Yeah.
haven't rated all this expansion.
Yeah, so
Do you want
we
to? Can I, on the record, can you tell that story?
yeah, absolutely at this point. So the um oh man, the storyline. Let's see. So this is funny. Let me give me a second so I can. So we had the cultists, the
hmm
cultists that worship Lannis, and these guys are, for those of you who did the Shadow Knight epic, we talked about them um, quite extensively on the Shadow Knight epic. Um, the Primordial Malice,
hmm
and these guys have been in the background now for ages, since the Shadow Knight epic, basically gathering back the components and the mortal remains of Lannis Taville, because they worship Lannis. A lot of these guys are so devoted; they're like cutting themselves and deforming themselves and basically becoming kind of a living undead. They're not quite undead; they're not quite dead. Um, in the honor of Lannis Taville, and these primordial malice priests. Um, so since Serena left her place, what was that called? God,
The Tower of Frozen Shadow.
Tower of Frozen Shadow, right? She disappeared, and since then she managed to work her way into the primordial malice, and then she is actually the high priestess of the primordial malice now. Oh my God!
Right?
And so her and the primordial malice, they bring back Lannis Taville, and through the rituals and having her daughter, and having her mortal remains and her armor and her weapons and her um, they resurrect Lannis Taville, and no longer as a demigod, she is a full god.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
she is the god of malice, and
So
she
is
is
she equals with Inaruk?
she is a new god, so she's not quite that powerful. But with the primordial malice backing her, and it's only a matter of time, I'm sure, till she becomes very powerful, and she is pissed off. So um, and so her and Serena, spawn a big, nasty, horrible essence of malice golem thing on you, and they walk away. Um, Basically, leaving a lot of questions as to what Lannisterville has in store for the world. So,
Definitely. Especially what she
yeah,
has in store for her arch nemesis and our heroine, Fiona V.
yeah. So, like I said, they have the primordial ritualist Valandra Vizier, she is the actual mortal female daughter of Lannisterville.
hmm
That's what also comes out in the storyline in the ossuary of malevolence.
Yeah, that
And
that that came out in the solo version.
yeah, yeah. And so um, yeah, she unfortunately is sacrificed and becomes the vessel of her mother
Oh wow.
and brings back the Lannisterville as a full god. She is a full god, and like I said, I can't go more into it because I'm sure everyone will be seeing more about this in the future. But she is pissed off. So, she got screwed over a couple times by people who will remain nameless, but I'm sure you can figure out. And
Oh yeah. The person who cast the curse. Well, no. That would be Serena that got pissed off by a curse. I'm not sure why Lance is pissed off, other than maybe
uh,
Furiona.
well, that's all stuff that There's more. There's more coming, so I'm not gonna spoil that. But
Oh
yeah,
no,
so
I only like
that's
the
pretty. That's
teensiest of
pretty.
spoilers.
And then the other storyline we set forth, in this expansion was obviously Captain Gray Mast and the whole calamity of him running around and um, Shissar, so and the Codex and all that fun stuff. So
So now we know the Shissar survived and are on Luckland.
we know some stuff. We know some stuff. Yeah.
See, teasing me.
Yep. Yeah, I have to be careful, obviously.
Oh yeah,
The
we can't.
problem is with all these storylines is, they could unravel anywhere and anytime. So.
We could not find out anything more for another two expansions about the Shissar.
And then also, like Nathan said on the last live cast, if you look in your in-game calendars, you'll see that there are some Prelude events scheduled. So,
That one definitely
um,
looks like it might have to do with Lannis.
and those Prelude events have to do with the Campansion this year. So
Awesome.
they are expansion Campansion 12 Preludes. So yeah, yep. Pretty soon, people will start to be able to start speculating. They'll probably be wrong, but that's okay.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kyle. I really appreciate it. And you have a great evening, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.